Hey guys, in this video I'm gonna show you how to build some of the new stuff in the new mod tools for the multiplayer part. Of course those work in single player, but it's a thing in the new version of the game, and that is mortars and shells. Here are some examples of Amnesty making some of them from the mod tools, because he have had access to it for like a while. But now you have access to, and I'm gonna show you how to build it. Not with custom models like Amnesty have here. I'm just gonna use the templates that the mod tools comes with, but it's just to show you how they work. So let's minimize this one and let's see here. So as always, we start out with a definition, as other fireworks. So we go here to our definitions. We are currently in, let's see here in the exporter, we want to have the tutorial mod 2. It's a weird name, but that was the mod that we started building that contained fireworks. So let's just do it here. It doesn't matter what mod it is, really. Of course it cannot be a map mod, because a map mod cannot contain other stuff than the map as it is right now. But let's take this tutorial mod here and let's go to definitions and start creating a definitions, because that's almost always how we start building stuff. And we're gonna build some fireworks. So let's take firework entity definition. Oh, let's give the entity definition a name. Let's call it mortar, and let's call it 3-inch first mortar or something like that. You of course will give it some proper name. And as we have seen before, let's go here, we select it here, and we can now, because I think I added this after I did some of the previous videos, you can now right click here. Let's just zoom in. You can right click up here and set ID as file name, and that basically just takes the file name that we just created and puts it in as the ID. And as also noted before, and I think it says it if you hover over it here, that this is a unique ID. So please put in something unique like your username or something like that. And as it says here, don't change this ID after you released your mod, because this ID is used in blueprints to store and load whatever setups you're doing. And also for logging items and stuff like that in the inventory. So please don't change this once you put it into to the workshop. So we give it ID. We need a prefab. We get to that in a moment. We give it a name. First, let's call it 3-inch first mortar. Bad name, but you know. Sprite, we're gonna wait with that. Entity type, we're gonna do that because also it's complaining down here. Missing entity type on Mania mortar 3-inch, and you can see if I click it, if I click these errors, it's actually highlighting what entity that have the issue. I have seen some of you complaining about, or not complaining, but saying that it shows this and you don't know what it is and you can't see it selecting anything. But that's typically because you have it set up like this, so you can't see the project pane and the console at the same time. So the way to fix that is just to take the console and then first up here maybe, and then drag it down here, and then you can see both the project pane and the console, and then you can see it's kind of highlighting it here. Anyway, so let's select the entity type. Again, we can see something here. Sometimes it depends on this little eye here, so we check that, and then we can see stuff from packages, because that's what our mod tool is. And we pick Fireworks Mortar. Again, this type here defines where it shows up in the inventory, because this is the entity definition for that is basically used to show stuff in the inventory. Okay, so let's clear this out here. And so we are missing a prefab. Sprite we can always do later. We have to do later because we need to create it first. So let's, as we have done before, right click over here, and this is a new thing in the new mod tools that makes it a bit easier. So now you can just right click, go to Fireworks Mania, templates and fireworks, and then you can pick a mortar 3-inch template. And there's also a mortar rack, but we can take that later maybe. And you can always do this, and it will just create an instance here of just generate this mortar template here. It's not a prefab now or anything, but you can create it here, and you can create news, and you can a new one, and you can have a look at how it's built. Anyway, we get to that in a moment. So what we want to do is we want to give it, because right now we need a prefab, and it's not a prefab as long as it's up here in the hierarchy as this. We need to drag it down here to make it a prefab, and we want to drag it down in the prefabs folder here. We can either rename it here, or we can rename it after we made it to a prefab. That really doesn't matter. We just do it here. So we say Laumania mortar 3-inch first mortar prefab. Again, the naming is up to you how you want to do it. So let's do it like this. Let's drag it down here. And now we have the prefab. We can see we have this blue one here, and up here we have it's also changed to this blue icon, meaning that in here in the hierarchy, this is now an instance of a prefab. And what prefab it is, you can see over here. You can see that it's an instance of this prefab, and if you click this, you can see again it's highlighting that this is an instance of this prefab. And just a note, I think I said it before, but I'm gonna say it again. Don't do changes in the hierarchy as this, like here, because if I do changes to this, it's only in this instance of it that is changed. So if I move this, it won't change in the prefab itself. It will only change in this version up here, unless I go over here and apply all the changes, but that's more advanced. So what we want to do is that after you created the prefab, we want to delete it. This is not specific to mortar. This is generally how it works for basically all the type of things you can do. So what we do now is that we double click this, and it still opens over here, but now you can see there is this little error. Maybe you can see it here, because now we can go back to seeing the scene, and then we can go into a prefab view here where we are only editing this prefab. Okay, anyway, so there was a little Unity thingy, not so much Fireworks specific. Anyway, so here, if we click on the top node here, the root node, we can see that we have a mortar behavior. And it have two things. It have an entity definition, as we have seen before, and the fireworks itself, the prefab here, needs to have a reference to the entity definition, and the entity definition needs to have a reference to this prefab. So let's set that up first, because else it will not work. Right now you can see it's pointing to a dummy entity definition, and we can click that and see that that's located in the mod tools resources, yada yada yada. But we don't want to use that. We want to use the other one. So what we can do is we can either find it over here and drag it over here, or we can click this little round thingy, and then we can find it here. We have it here, Laumania mortar 3-inch first mortar. So we click that. Then we can click this one, hit this. So now we selected the definition. Even though the prefab is still open here, we are now selecting the definition, and therefore it shows up over here in the inspector. And then we can find our prefab, and this is where you can easily go wrong, actually, because if we let's try first and use this one, and then we click Laumania mortar 3-inch, and we hit set that in. So this looked correct. You see, I picked the first mortar prefab. So you'll think, hey, this is fine. This is exactly what I need. That's what Laumania told me to do. But you also see it says type mismatch. And that is it. I'm sure Unity have a reason for it, but it's actually making sense. But you can easily get confused. First of all, when you highlight this, you can see down here that it says game object. We don't want that. We want it to say prefab. I think, but more importantly is that you can see the tab up here is scene. So all the stuff you see here is from the scene. It's not from the assets down here. It's not from the project itself. So if we go to assets instead, and then we search for Again, that's another reason to prefix stuff with your nickname is that it's easier to find by searching like this. So here you can see, and now it's also a blue icon, and it says this prefab, and okay, it still says that was my mistake. It still says game object here, but you can see the path now is correct where it says .prefab here at the end. I don't know if that makes sense, but when you are selecting it up here, it needs to be from the Assets tab, not the Scene. So you're getting a reference to the real prefab, because now when I double click it, you can see it stays up here. Again, I could also, another way of doing it, I could have locked this, so because then this will keep being selected here, and no matter what I click here, it stays there. Then I can navigate to the prefabs, and then I can drag it up here. Again, this is pure Unity thing, but it might cause you some issues if you're not aware of these things. Once you know, it's very, very simple. Anyway, so now we have a reference from the definitions to the prefab, and the prefab, which we have open over here, have a reference to this entity. Okay, great. Next step on the mortar behavior, we are now selecting, we are inside the prefab editor here, and we are selecting the root object. We have a mortar settings, which is the diameter. That is basically how big it is. So we just set it to 3 inch. This determines in the inventory, you have on the mortar, you have a subcategory, a sub-filtering based on size. And this is the size that is used there. Because as we will get to in a moment, or I can say to you now, is that a mortar can consist of one or more mortar tubes. Just so to show you, and also to show you how we can reuse these templates just for, researching. So now I'm still in the prefab here. It might get a little confusing now, but just to show you how we can do. So we let's start up. Let's add in a template, a 6-inch rack template. It's now placed all weird because it's inside the 3-inch thing. So this doesn't make sense to save, but it's just to show you that you can do like this just to see how things are put together. If you can't remember, you can always do a new template you want to use, and you can just take a look at it here. Okay, see here, there's 3 tubes here, but it's a little more advanced, of course, but the idea and how it works is the exact same. A mortar consists of one or more mortar tubes. And we're just to show you again an example of how it looks if there are 3, and there could be 4 or 6, and they could also have different sizes, because right now these 3 are the same size as you can see here. They're all the same sizes, but you could have a rack with different sizes. So I don't know if you got that in, if that made sense. So the mortar itself here on the top level have one size that kind of defines what it is, because you cannot, you have to group it somehow. So on the mortar, you set some kind of diameter, and then there is one or more mortar tubes underneath, which is the actual tube that we get to in a moment, which is, the actual tube. So anyway, the mortar itself, pretty simple. You set the definition, you set the diameter, and then you forget about these things for now. One thing I can do is I can remove this deprecated stuff here. I will try and remember to update the template so they don't have this in the future. But anyway, it doesn't matter to have it here. I'm just removing it, so like that. Okay, anyway, so this is the mortar. Then we have and let's see what that is. So that is actually the model here. Like you can see, I'm clicking this little eye icon here, which is a way to show and hide stuff without actually hiding it or disabling it. You can also put a little cross on the hand here. It's another little Unity tip, and then you cannot by accident select these over here, and if you're seeing in this window over here, you cannot by mistake select these colliders and move them around, for instance. Okay, anyway, So the first thing here is the model, and it's just a pure simple model. It doesn't have anything, it's just a model. And this is the one you could, you should really update. As you can see in the Amnesty example here, he kind of did a lot of custom modeling. But basically, okay, a little too close, but he basically just, quote unquote, made these models in Blender, and then he can take it in one at a time and then replace this model with that. But I can do some other videos maybe in the future of how to do it. I have also done some videos about, doing your own models. But anyway, we'll just stick with this for now, because this video is basically just to explain you how it's put together, not build it from scratch, which you can also do. But now we just take the simple route here. So we have this one, the model. It's just a visual representation that the player sees, so it's very important, but it doesn't really have any effect. It doesn't have any logic. The logic comes here from the mortar tube. And the mortar tube is a conceptual thing. You cannot see it really. If we hide this one, you can see that the tube itself is just some logic and colliders and stuff. It doesn't do anything, or it doesn't show anything, but this is where all the logic is. Because as you can see, first of all, maybe let's take a look at the colliders first, because we have the model here, and for that to work in game, it needs to have colliders. So what I have done here is that I put colliders. You can see there is a box collider here in the bottom, and then you can actually see that there are a bunch of, let's go over here, a bunch of, that was a bad one. Let's take this one. You see there is a bunch of box colliders here that is basically just, put down these lines here. And the reason for that is, of course, because by having this, as you can see on the green stuff here, can we maybe do like this? By doing this, we have colliders all the way around, and we have a hole in the middle where we can actually put stuff. But when we talk about colliders, be careful, because it can really easily be very, very resource intensive. So performance, FPS like, goes down, because this is pretty heavy to do if there is too complex colliders. So try and keep it as simple as possible. It doesn't have to be perfect to align. You can also see this is not perfectly aligned with this, and but try and do it as good as possible, but as simple as possible, so you don't run into some performance issues with your tubes. Yeah, and maybe you can find an even better way of doing it. But this is how I've done it so far, at least. Anyway, so that was the model and the colliders to represent the model in the world, so it actually physically works as you would expect. Then we have the mortar tube, which is the actual tube that is the most interesting part. As you can see, it consists of a diameter again. That is the specific tube. In this case, there's only one, but this specific tube is 3 inch. And by the way, when you are doing your model, you have to, in the modeling tool, make sure that this hole here in the top is actually measured 3 inches. How you do it depends on your tool and on your tool you're using for 3D modeling. I can maybe do a video of how I'm doing it. I'm not sure I'm doing it the best way, because I'm not a 3D modeler really. But you can basically do something that of a known size, and then you can scale it up and down by times percentage thing to get it down to where you need it to be. But anyway, this is 3 inch. So the next thing is the mortar tube top, which is over here. So this is this one up here, this round thing here. So this represents, and as you can see here, that needs to be placed right outside the tube, because this one represents the snapping point for when you are placing a shell into the mortar. This is the place it needs to go. And this one don't have a, let's see if we can do. This one don't have an error on it. Maybe I should add that here too. But as of now, let's see. I think the up direction would be the green arrow going up. So I think, or does that matter actually? Okay, I'm in doubt now. But anyway, it's been a while since I made this, so I really can't actually remember how it shoots out. If it's using this rotation to shoot it out, or it's using, I think it is. I can't remember. Anyway, place it so that it's in top of the mortar at least, because it's the entry point and it's also the point where it shoots out the effect when you are the what is it called, the muffle effect or the launch effect of the shell is fired from this position too. So you need to place that right outside the entrance to the mortar tube here. The next one is this yellow one, which looks all weird, and you are thinking, what the hell is that? Well, it's my version of a not very well modeled fuse, unwrapped fuse. Because conceptually what's happening is that a shell, this is a mortar that really in real life doesn't have anything, it's just a tube, right? And then you have the shell that have the fuse on it. In a game it's done a little different, but still should be the same. Anyway, what you have to do on the mortar is to tell where the unwrapped fuse should be. So on the mortar here, this one represents the unwrapped shell fuse, as you can also see here, the unwrapped shell fuse pivot point position. So it's important that this point here is over the edge, like it is here. So if you do it like this, it would be all weird. But something like this. So it's like over the edge here, and it's 3D, so you have to move around, and sometimes it can be beneficial to do something like this. So you can see it straight from the sides. So you can see that it needs to go, whoops. Something like that. Yeah, so this one needs to be here, and it doesn't have anything really other than this script here. And I think there also is a menu so you can add it yourself, really. Parts, mortar, and then we have the unwrapped shell fuse position. Yeah, we have one here too. So you can see it's also something you can add with that right click menu. But anyway, we have it here in the template, and it's right here, and it's fitting locally. Then we have the bottom one, which needs to be, funny enough, at the bottom. And what this is used for is to know where the shell needs to end up. So when you're putting a shell in the game up here at the top, it animates the shell going in from this point, the green point, to this one, which is I think is a red point down here, the bottom one. So it goes from the top to the bottom here. And the bottom, it instantiates a model of the shell to make it visible when you're looking down the tube here. You can see the shell you put in, and that's done by instantiating an instance of the model of the shell at this position, locked in place, and then show whatever unwrapped fuse that the shell have on this position. I know it sounds really complicated, but play around with it and you will see. It was the simplest way I could make something as complex as this, really. But anyway, so we have this now, and we have been through all the stuff. It should all be set up. So let's just for the quick here, let's just build it and see it in game, and let's see if it works. So if I miss something, and if I miss something, we'll fix it. Oh my god, it's 24 minutes. Let me know in the comments if you wanna have these slow videos, guides, or if you just wanna have something that is cut really fast and you can just boom. Because personally, I like it when it's actually seen as is. Yeah. Anyway, you can see the mod was built, and you can also see it's in here, the tutorial mod 2, which is in the mod folder. So let's just start out here. Let's go in here, and it should load our custom mortar. So let's find it here. Affyringsrør, because I have it in Danish. And we have our first mortar. And we can also see that we forgot to put the icon in here. But that's fine. We can fix it. So we have it here. It's a little wobbly, which is a common issue with the mortars. Let's try, because I got an idea actually the other day by why this might happen. Let's go out again. Let's go in here, project, and let's find our prefab. And as we know from one of the other videos, maybe we can now right click and Fireworks Mania, generate preview, and we can take a perspective front. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, that's fine. So let's drag that into icons. Let's go to our definitions, and we pick the mortar 3-inch there. So now there's a picture, so that's good. Let's go to the prefab again, and let's try and do something with the rigid body here, because I think maybe I can't remember the difference between these. Let's just try one of the other ones, because they, at least I know this is the cheapest one, you know, being less intensive for the CPU. Let's try the next one here, because I think that might have an impact on that wobbly thing. So it's done. We go in again into a map. Let's see. And we see here, and also we should see it under the 3 sub. As I said, this is the sub filtering on the shells and mortar. And here you can see 3-inch first mortar. Click that, and we place it again. And now it tips over completely. We can do the, if we hold down E to rotate, and we hold shift, it will snap. So we can do that once, and we can see it snaps to up here, and then we can place it. Let's see if we can make it stand up here. I think it's something with colliders. They are really funny to make, and I'm sure it's something with the physics in Unity. But if you do it like this, it will just fall down. Or you can also, if you want to have it angled, you can just right click to have it angled like that. Let's see if it works. So let's put in a, damn it, I don't have a 3-inch. Damn it, we take a 2, sorry. And you can see here, it snaps to, this is the top mortar tube thing. You can see it snaps to that position. When I get here, boom, I click, it goes down. And you can see here that is now spawned that in the bottom of it. There's an instance of this model, and it also took the unwrap fuse defined. Now I know in this case it looks like the yellow one in Unity, but that's just because I'm using the same model as I'm using here. But this fuse is really from the shell. So it's the shell that defines how this one looks. The mortar defines where it's put, but the shell, which we'll get to in the next video about shells, defines how the unwrap fuse look. So, as in real life, you know, the fuse is on the shell, not on the mortar. There we go. Okay, the sound was a little low, but that's because I turned it down. Let's see. At least for me it was a little. Let's try again. And also, you know, you can see you can put 2 small shells into a mortar, but it won't shoot out with the same amount of force that if it was if it fit to the mortar. So this is a 2-inch and a 3-inch, and then it shoots up not as far as it should. Let's just go again here. The fusing thing also works. Yes, perfect. So that was your first mortar. And what you can do now is you can try and build your own model for it to make it unique, because we really don't want to have just 20 of these template mortars in the workshop. So make it your own somehow. But that goes for all the fireworks. We don't wanna have the templates. It's a great achievement that you made your first one, just as I did here when you have done what I've just did. It's a huge achievement that you built there. But we don't want to have all of these in the workshop. It's not really that interesting. So make it your own somehow. And yeah, that's it for this video. I was about to say a quick guide on how to make a mortar, but it took half an hour, so it wasn't that quick. But maybe I can do a quick version later on that you can re-watch to get the highlights of how to do it. Because really it is very, very simple if you don't have to sit and explain everything. But anyway, that's it for now. I will do another video about a shell, how to do that. And yeah, see you in the next one. Happy modding. Bye.